for good.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on. Final half hour of the show. Mention off the top, it has been a busy last few days on the recruiting side of things for NDSU football. The Bison added 3 players over the last 4 days. Miles Ellis out of Illinois, out of the Chicago area. Daniel Devine, linebacker out of the Twin Cities. And then yesterday, I got a text like, hey, keep an eye on the state of North Dakota because the Bison may be getting another one. And they did, out of southeastern North Dakota. They've been known to get some players out of there. LaMoure's Gunnar Thielges announced that he has committed to the Bison class of 2026. I know we had him on our news last night. His head football coach is here in studio, former Bison himself, Mr. Andy DeLaBarre. It's great to see you, bud. How you been?
Great to see you. Great to be back.
This is double the whammy for you. As his head coach and as a former Bison, you got to be just geeked on this.
I tried to stay as neutral as possible with him, and just so happy for him. And it's just awesome to have another Bison connection through our community. So I think I said that before. We're going to have a few new Bison t-shirts showing up in LaMoure.
We talked at the Dakota Bowl about his season and just the notoriety he was getting, the attention he was getting. Was the college stuff starting by then? Because I know he stayed. He came to the Bison game the next day after the Dakota Bowl.
Yeah, I think he caught a lot of attention his sophomore year, and then of course this year rushing over 3,000 yards. And I think him going to some camps last year too helped. We tend to go down to, I hate to say this, but we go down to Brookings to their team camp. They have a really good 9-man team camp. But Danny Freund was there just from UND and knew about him, and they kind of did some things with him at camp. And I think had Roger stayed at SDSU, that might have even been in the conversation too, just because they had seen him in person a few times already.
When did you get a sense that he was a collegiate athlete?
Even when he was in junior high, you watched him just do things as a junior high kid that's not fully developed yet. And even still now you look at him and go, man, his ceiling is just still higher. And, he's a 4-sport athlete. So, he's not like that kid that's just complete. I hate to say it's not that he's dedicated, but he's not in the weight room every day of the week. So put him under Jim Kramer's wing, and I just can't wait to see what he'll do.
We're watching a couple of the highlights here. This is the good stuff you can watch from the Dakota Bowl from November. But every time he touched the ball, Andy, he's just magic with it. He was doing something. It's a 60, 70-yard touchdown. He's doing something crazy with it.
Yeah, he's a big playmaker. And that's where I think, eventually for NDSU, he'll be a special teams player to get on the field if there's that opportunity. But, he's a big playmaker and, just a tough kid.
I've had at least 10 people ask me, okay, where's he going to play? And he told me that safety, maybe running back. Where do you see his best destiny at the next level?
Well, he'll go in as an athlete to start, and then I think eventually he'll fit to that mold of where he goes with his body. But I looked at, I played with some running backs like Kyle Steffes and Tyler Roll, and he's kind of that downhill slasher. Be a good third down back too offensively. I know he loves offense, and what kid doesn't? So
yeah, right.
But he's also like kind of reminds me too of that Travis Beck, where he can cover ground. He can he's not going to thump you, but he's going to be in the right spot. So it's hard to say right now. He's just a good athlete in the state of North Dakota.
This is, I know you're going to shrug this off, but this is now the third different, I believe, Division I player that you've coached. You mentioned Travis Quinalo, who was obviously went and played for the Bison out of LaMoure. How proud are you of that? Not granted, they all went to NDSU, but you've coached now 3 Division I football players.
Yeah, it just goes to show we've got some really good talent in the state, and not just LaMoure, but all over the place. And very, very blessed to have coached kids like the ones that I've had, and whether they go on to NDSU or somewhere else, it's fun to watch kids develop and into men and make these decisions. And like I told Gunnar, I said, this is kind of your first chance of being an adult and making an adult decision, because it comes down to you. It's not what your parents want. It's not what I want. It's what you want. And for him to make that decision on his own and know that this was the right place for him, can't be more happy for him.
I wrote this. You can rate it at inform.com, but you can give me a little bit more backstory on this. So the Bison win the national championship on January the 6th. 2 days later, Polasek is in LaMoure talking to Gunnar. Give us the backstory on that.
Yeah, I was surprised when Tim texted me and said, hey, we want to come see him work out. And like, man, you just are celebrating a championship still, aren't you? And I think it was the day after or the Wednesday after he was in LaMoure and
Wow.
saw Gunnar, and we did some workouts. But I told Gunnar, I said, that's pretty special. And I think he realized that too, and also kudos to Tim to really show, that North Dakota's a primary spot for North Dakota State athletes.
The day after the Dakota Bowl, he went to the game day visit. What did he tell you about that experience, that he got to talk to some of the players and the coaches after the Dakota Bowl, which I know had to be a wild swing of emotions for having how the game played out, and then it's on to the next chapter of life. Yeah,
for sure. And Gunnar is one to kind of brush off anything negative too. He's pretty good about that, at least showing you that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was his first taste of, what was behind the scenes of NDSU football. You always see the show of it, but till you actually get behind the scenes, talk to coaches, talk to players, and get to see the real life side of things, I think that was a good first taste for him.
To have this, did he mention that he wanted this done before senior year? I know we've talked before, some athletes, it happens during or after their senior year. Now with recruiting so early, I'll ask you about yours in a minute, but was this a timeline that he had in mind that he wanted it done this early?
I don't know if it was necessarily he felt like it had to get done now, but I know that the offer was there, and it was one of those things where if this is where he wants to be, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And I think that's just maybe what it came down to. And I'm sure, what a smart kid to say, I better think about it. I better sleep on it, pray on it, whatever it is. And so certainly for him to get to make that decision, it was good for him.
What is going on in southeastern North Dakota, man? There is some dynamite football. I think I realize it. I don't know about people that aren't in North Dakota high school football that understand what kind of level of players you guys have in that corner of the state.
Yeah, well, Region 1 nine-man football, you look back to Jeff Elias, Cody Mauk, and there's some others that kind of, I say, went under the radar that were pretty good athletes back in the day too. So yeah, it's been something in the water.
Man, it makes it, and we've talked, obviously, when we talk about your team during the year, that just makes Friday nights super tough because you've got, you're playing some really good teams in nine-man football.
Yeah, and just you come out and you get to see good athletes too. And so I think that's just another draw. You never know what you're going to get.
Well, and I know this is a sense of pride as well, being a nine-man head football coach. NDSU now will have 3 straight North Dakota nine-man, I'm going to say it, athletes of the year. I know he's got to play of the year, but Nate Tasted from North Prairie is a redshirt freshman. Walker Broughton is on his way to NDSU next fall, and now Gunnar's going to be going there. Yeah. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, very special. Very good.
You saw Walker Broughton up close, probably too close. What do we make of his college prospects when he gets to NDSU?
Well, he's a great athlete, and he's got the size, and I know he had some looks outside of the state. So I mean, a great in-state kid again from West Hope. So it's awesome that those kids are staying in North Dakota.
I got to ask, as a football coach, and you've done it your whole life, that Dakota Bowl, is that still with you? Is that the losses stay with you even as you get older and doing this a while, or no?
It does. You put so much work into the season, and so you want to finish on the high note, like winning a state title, and you don't. And so I don't think I've really sat and watched the whole game yet. It's still lingered there, but I mean, Elliott had a great team, and Rockford is a good football team. And if we play him 10 times, do we win one? I don't know, but I think it's something that will stick with us. Hopefully our boys, it stuck with them too a little bit, just to keep in the back of their minds to say, well, how are we prepared for next year?
Tell me about 2025. This is going to be a new cycle in North Dakota high school football. How much, anything changing for you guys in Region 1 this year?
Yeah, it's all one region now for us. We don't have to play any non-region games, so it's great to, every Friday is a meaningful game. And not that those weren't last year, but
you're not traveling super far, right?
Yeah, travel's not, it's not like it used to be. It's not like you get on the bus and then everybody follows behind you, and it's like, hey, we only have one headlight. So we're all in nice buses. Kids are on their phones listening to music, and I don't think travel's all that bad.
Is that we probably make too much of it?
It's maybe more for the older generation that makes it more of a deal for travel. But I guess even in playoffs, if we had to go from here to beach, I'll get on interstate.
You're going to give zero reference here.
Yeah, exactly.
He watches the show. He just made his day.
Yeah, it's good.
You referenced him there.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I don't know if I've asked this, your recruiting experience, when NDSU got involved with you tearing up things in Minot, like when did they come on the radar for you?
Well, I remember going to camp, going in my sophomore year, and Jared Essler was getting recruited. And I know we were sitting at the dorm one night, and Jared's like, hey, come meet Coach Bradley. And I was like, who's Coach Bradley?
Yeah.
And so we went, and he introduced me, and Coach Bradley, like always, was just super energetic. And he was fired up, and then they saw me, do some things at camp that year, and then kind of followed me through my junior and senior year. But yeah, the recruiting process back then was they didn't really talk to you until like the end of your junior year.
Okay.
And I didn't commit until probably January of my senior year.
No kidding.
And, it was one of those things where it was just kind of the norm back then. You didn't really make that decision. I didn't go on a visit until December probably. So yeah, it was a lot different than it is now. And, I wish they still had NIL. I maybe would have got a few bucks, but
there's no doubt about
maybe
that.
$100. I don't know. But
Essler would have been getting paid. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he definitely would have. But no,
because signing day was then just February. So literally about a month before is when you made up your mind?
Yeah, it was about a month before.
Wow.
And I think my parents finally just said, you need to make a decision. And I knew all along, and I had ties to Minot State with my grandfather coaching there for so many years. So those were hard calls, calling Minot, calling UND, and saying, hey, I love you, but I know where my heart is. But then the most fun call, I got to call Coach Bradley, and it was probably like at 11 at night, and I just remember he woke up his whole family because they were all excited. But it was fun. It was a good experience, and just can't wait for Gunnar's experience.
How much did you either coach or help Gunnar along that, making the calls of teams that were interested to say, hey, thanks, but I'm going to go a different direction?
Yeah, I never really had to really go down that path with him. I think I just told him, you got to know where is your heart at, and if this is a place you want to play, don't look at money, don't look at this. Just know where it is you want to spend the next 4 to 5 years in your college career. So, yeah, I think this was a good fit for him. He definitely fits that personality.
I know how much you love college football. For you, is it recognizable now? Seeing you just experienced it firsthand what Gunnar went through, and that's mild in the recruiting sense, but seeing everything that's out there, how much as a fan is it palatable to watch right now? What's going on?
It's cool. I don't envy college coaches with the world the way it is now, and my good friend AJ Cooper's down in Arizona State, and so I connect with him too, and I ask him how that goes, and he tells me things, and then you see what NDSU does, and it's just, man, what a world that the college is in now. And maybe it helps NDSU too a little bit, where you get a kid that's a really good talent, but maybe would fall under the radar in a bigger school early, but to get some exposure, it might be a better draw for NDSU to get some really good talent that maybe say, hey, you're going to be a stud here, and think of what the next couple of years could bring. And not to say you want a kid to ever leave, but hey, you never know, that you come here and you show how you can dominate at the FCS level, that you got some big money later.
But they also have a pretty good track record of North Dakota 9-man guys staying the course and then hitting the field. Yeah. I mean, Cody Mauk is the poster child of that, but you mentioned Jeff Ilias is another one that Jeff was a great high school football player that I think by his junior year became one of Easton Stick's favorite guys to throw the football to.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think you look at 9-man North Dakota kids, they don't want to stray too far from home. I think, they're rooted pretty deep here. Yep. Gunnar's definitely one of them. Last thing I'd ever see Gunnar going down to like Florida. That's not his style. He's going to be, a North Dakota kid through and through.
All right, last thing, we saved the hardest question for last because Polasek was hinting at it yesterday about all white jerseys, all white combo. What do you make of that as a former Bison? White helmet, white jersey, white pants.
That's something else. I know when Gene Taylor was here, he would have said no. He would have said something else, but he said no. And I think you got to do things to get kids excited about the program, so I get it. It'll be interesting. I was a little remiss. So I didn't understand or really think the Harvest Bowl helmets would be a thing.
Oh, man.
They're cool.
They're really cool. Yeah.
I've got a prototype at home, so I think they're pretty neat, and I'm sure whatever they do, it's going to look awesome.
How about all yellow?
Ooh. I don't know. That's a little. I'd rather go all white than all yellow.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
See, I was big on the because all green, once they debuted that one, I'm like, that's pretty good.
That was cool.
Yellow one is striking, man. That'd be different.
The white pant look, I just don't know. That's a little too resemblance of something up north. So.
It's great to see you, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and we'll talk for football season,
I
all right?
appreciate it, Dom.
Andy DeLaBarre joining us here. LaMoure Litchfield Marion head football coach on his standout Gunnar Thielges, who committed to play football for the Bison yesterday. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up, get you ready for a busy and late night Sports Tuesday. Let's